Hello, my friend, and welcome to Beyond, the personal growth podcast for the people who are healing beyond their conditioning and beyond the cycles that played out before them. My name is Katie Lynn, and with 20 years of experience in the field of psychology and human behavior, I am bringing my natural curiosity, expertise, and personal life experiences here for discussions that are guaranteed to be informative, inspiring, and entertaining. I'm glad you're here. Let's get started. Today on Beyond, I have a very special, beautiful human to introduce you to. We have Michelle Delamor, and Michelle is the visionary co-founder of Sonic God Studios, which is an LA-based entertainment company that is all around innovation and is dedicated to creating socially impactful and transformative content. As a former American Idol finalist, Michelle captivated audience with her talent and resilience. She is also the founder of No Girl Left Behind, which is a social impact organization that has empowered thousands of girls across the nation. Blending her passion for storytelling and business innovation, Michelle co-created 60-Day Hustle, which is a high-stakes competition series where aspiring entrepreneurs compete for a life-changing grand prize. Praised by Variety as a groundbreaking competition show, the series is now streaming on Prime Video, inspiring and empowering viewers worldwide. Michelle's work continues to drive progress and resonate with diverse audiences globally. Michelle, welcome to Beyond.
Thank you. I'm so excited. And what a beautiful intro.
Oh my gosh. I feel like that is such a tiny snapshot of the magnificence that you create in this world. And one of the things that I find to be so inspiring about you is there is always a mission at the root of everything that you create. Yeah. And so when you brought out 60-Day Hustle, and Sanika and I got to go to the premiere, and anyone who follows me on Instagram saw the stories and, the behind the scenes content of what that evening was like. But it was really an experience full of incredibly ambitious, heart-centered, mission-driven humans, which is so powerful as we step into this phase socially of innovation, of redesign, and really being conscious creators in terms of how are we impacting the future. So I would love to hear more about how you came to be from your perspective.
Oh my goodness, what a question. How I came to be.
Yes.
Not even just 60-Day Hustle, how I came to be. All right.
How you came to be, yes.
I love it.
Because if there's no you, there's no 60-Day Hustle.
100%. No, I love it so much. I mean, my journey has been so interesting and it's taken many shapes and forms. But I would say very early on, one of the things that shaped me was spiritual foundation. So I grew up with a mother who was incredibly, and still is, incredibly spiritual. At like 5 years old, I remember my mom she would host these like prayer groups for kids at our house. And we'd have like 30 kids and we would all do affirmations and intention setting. And it was like so awesome. I looked forward to it every Friday. It was such a big part of my life. And when I was 11, I decided that I wanted to become a minister. And I was mentored by a minister, and I traveled with him and a lot of other motivational speakers, people in the space. And it was incredible. And when I was 12, I decided to move to an ashram, which my mom was incredible for even allowing me to do that on my own.
Yeah, that is really beautiful that she saw the value of that.
Yeah. She now tells me, look, I was like, I need to let this girl go on her journey. She's either going to be a monk or an entertainer, and we're going to see how it plays out. But I trust the process.
Yeah.
But she totally let me go over there, which was such an incredible experience. And so and at the ashram, so much of your life is about really spiritual development, humanitarianism, service, all of that. And that was always at the root of who I was, and who I am. I've always known since I could remember that my life was so much bigger than just me, and that I was put on this planet to do something that would impact people. And even before I had the full language for it, I always felt that. And so that's really the foundation of everything. And in parallel has always been music and entertainment. Mm-hmm. I've loved to sing since I was a little girl. I grew up singing at the church choir. And then down the line, eventually became a finalist on American Idol, did, quite a few things in the music industry, which was a big part of my life. And at some point, I looked at everything that was going on with the entertainment industry and the business side of that. And I looked at the impact I wanted to create in the world, and I chose to merge those two things. And so that was the beginning of No Girl Left Behind, actually. So with No Girl Left Behind, it was amazing because, I created this experience where, it was a full-on concert, and then it would turn into this transformative conference, and we would see thousands of girls, and we had some of the most impactful things happen. Even some girls like rip up suicide notes at our events, which is insane that they even carried that weight with them in their backpacks or in their bags. But that they felt so heard and supported and not alone. And it was so incredibly powerful. So, my life has really been, and we can dive deeper into all the different facets, but my life has really been rooted in this belief that I'm here for so much more than myself, and this deep desire to create impact and to create a greater level of empathy in the world. I do believe that's a big part of my purpose, and to help others also connect and awaken to everything that they are, so that we can continue to expand more into that in the world. So yeah, a little bit about what has shaped me.
Yeah. And the first thing that I hear, especially because the work that I do with my clients is all about identity.
Yeah.
And who we're here to be, who we're created to be. How do we integrate that with the world that we exist in now? How do we move in a way that starts to emphasize the service component, right? And making it bigger than about just us. And the question that comes to mind as I hear you speak is like, how did you develop the trust in your ideas, I heard you say a couple of times, like, I always knew I was created for something bigger. I always knew I was created for this service. How did you trust that?
Wow, that's such an interesting question. I feel like there has always been this feeling of, if I can see it in my mind, then it can be done. And if it came into my heart and in my mind, then it's actually universally for me to carry out. And if I don't, someone else will, but the universe is asking for it. And I feel like I've always just, as I've seen things, even as a little girl, I'm like, oh, then it's possible. But again, I did have an incredible mom who really just gave us this strong belief that we could take anything that we wanted to do to the highest extent. Her upbringing was very different from ours. She grew up in Honduras. She was very abused from the time she was little. She went through so much in her life, and she decided to break that cycle and create an incredible life for us, and also instill the belief that anything is possible. As cliche as that saying sounds, I think that foundation has been so strong. So I've always had this, I feel like for me, I see things and feel things like very viscerally. And a lot of times it's linked to music. Like if I'm listening to a certain song or something, I can almost transport into some sort of vision. And then I'm like, oh, that's going to happen. Like, oh my God, I just know in my bones that's going to happen. And sometimes it just takes longer than I freaking thought. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, was I tripping, or is that actually going to happen? And then 3 years later, we're here, and you're like, oh, got it. All right. Okay. Yes, it was. Yeah. I was right. So I trust the process now more.
Yeah.
But that visceral feeling, that knowing, the chills, the joy, the energizing kind of essence that bubbles up in your body, like that's the knowing that it is for you and it's going to be done if you continue to carry it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that image of, well, especially as you navigate the vision, right? When you're the visionary and you receive the image and you receive the feeling that comes with that image, and now you're working with a team who didn't receive that image. So you're so to me, that's where I hear it took a little bit longer than what I thought, because when it's just my vision, it's pretty speedy, right? Like the turnaround time, 3 to 6 months, depending on my level of internal resistance, right? However, when I've got a team of 30, 40, 50 people who I'm enrolling into this vision, they know it's for them. Yeah. I'm championing it and their belief systems. We've got to go through all that healing work with them, right? Everything that has to be cleared for them has got to be a part of this process too. And there's so much more dynamic, I would say dynamic transformations and at a micro level involved in something like that I think probably contributes to how long it takes, because you're just working through all the stuff that comes up for every person that's a part of the team. And so holding that space is really powerful on your part, because to me, that's probably what your childhood was all about, was preparing you for being the space, right? Being the birthplace for these bigger visions and with everyone who's involved in it. Does that resonate for you?
It totally does. I think that since I was a little girl, I've always had this ability to transmit the vision to others and enroll them in the vision because it's coming from such a purpose-driven place and an authentic place.
Mm.
Since I was a little girl, I mean, honestly, like I chose to be, I'm just going to give you an example of my little personality back then. I chose to be a vegetarian when I was 2.5 years old. I made that decision for myself. My whole family ate meat. And I just chose it because, it's when I first made the connection that the chicken that my mom was about to pass me on the table was an actual animal. And I just did not want to be a part of that. I was very empathetic to them, to the animals. And so 5-year-old, as I grew up a little older, 5-year-old Michelle was out there protesting in the neighborhood. And all the kids in the neighborhood were making those poster signs with me. They knew they were eating chicken nuggets at home. But
they had their dino nuggets for dinner, right?
For sure. But, it's like this sense of, oh my God, there's a mission here. And that, that conviction and that belief around something. I've always had that ability to transmit that because it's coming from, again, such a true place. And that's been a big part of what I think has been a strength. And then there's other things, like you said, that you look at, like, all the various pieces that it takes to actually build that vision, to bring it to life. And I think, there's so much growth in the process, and there's not been, for whatever reason, one thing that I've seen in my head that is like a simple, small thing. It's all like, build the next generation of what an entertainment studio looks like. Okay, yes, that takes a bit of time in my head. I'm like, let's freaking go. 8 months, we're out. We're in this.
Yeah.
And, it's in the grand scheme of things, we have done a lot in a short period of time. Like, we built Sonic God Studios, my company. The studio in 2022 is really when we embarked on this. So 2 years in, and, we've done a lot, but there's so much that you have to get educated on, so much work that goes into building a solid foundation for something that's going to have that longevity. So there's the vision, and then there's doing the deep work of creating a solid foundation for, like, creating the infrastructure for vision. And then, like you said, it's carrying that out to your team and to the people that are going to be a part of, executing it on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And I mean, when I was watching 60 Day Hustle, which was so fun to watch, I highly recommend everybody goes and watches it because, first of all, I'm such a business nerd anyways. So I love business. I love competition. I love, like, all of that. But what sets this apart, and to me is such a reflection of you and your spirit, is that the way that the show is designed is it's a win-win for everybody.
Yes.
Everyone involved. And this is, to me, this is a universal principle. Right? To me, God, Spirit, Source, Creator works on the principle of, is it a win for everyone involved? If it is, I am blessing it to the highest, and let's go. Right? And to me, that's where the greatest alignment is how does everybody win? If I can't see an option, if I feel stuck, if I feel like there's no way forward, there's an option here I'm not seeing that's a win-win for everybody. Let me get creative. And to me, the 60-Day Hustle experience was like, everybody's winning, even though it's a competition show, right?
Yes.
Even though it's like, they're still getting so many resources. They're learning from each other. They're building community. You're getting these experts in who get to share their, their wisdom and what they've learned in their, creations. And so, like, as I'm watching the show, I'm like, oh, I can see how powerful having the perspective of win-win, how do we make it beneficial for all, is not just possible, right? You demonstrated how it's possible. But number two, you did it in an industry that isn't historically known for that. It's actually kind of got this reputation of being very cutthroat and very intense and very up and down. And so I'm like, wow, there's really a pioneering here that we all get to have a front seat, eyes view of how this is unfolding in real time, because it is changing the game from the media perspective.
My God, that is so beautiful. And I appreciate that so much. I think for us, it's the intentionality. We went into building this company, with the intention of creating entertainment that would leave people feeling inspired, entertainment that could truly create impact in the world. And I think, of course, you want to have the stakes, and you need it, because actually that's what gets us all bought in, the journey, the ups and downs, all of it. But we did want to make sure, and with 60 Day Hustle in particular as well, that, every contestant had an opportunity to really gain value from their experience being in there. And then also that the audience had an opportunity to take that and learn from it and use that in their own pursuit of greatness, whatever that looks like for them, that they could end the show feeling like, oh my God, I got this. Like I could totally do this. I could take on the world. And that feeling that I'm talking about was actually the very beginning and the essence of our brainstorms. Like, how do we leave people feeling like that? And how do we make an incredible experience for the people involved? And so, yeah, it's been so awesome to see how the audience is resonating, how they're loving it, how they're seeing it as their roadmap on their own dreams, seeing them come to life. People are saying they're taking so many notes watching the show, which I think is so cool. Like, what
Yes,
do you have a notepad out taking notes while you're actually being entertained at the same time? It's such a
exactly.
cool experience. We really loved it. And I think even it's the little things that make a big impact too. You know, with entertainment, we could have done a session with like the contestants, the entrepreneurs that was quick and for cameras and it's like a 15-minute session and we cut it up. But we actually had like hour-long, sometimes multi-hour-long
Mhm.
mentorship sessions with industry leaders that, you know, we as business people have spent thousands of dollars to be able to even get that access, to have that
Mm.
proximity. And so we wanted to create that experience for them as well. And it's the intentionality around all of that. So everyone
Yeah.
involved is leaving better, you know, has more
For
value.
sure. And another component of this that I really thought was so deeply inspiring was when you could feel the authenticity as you're watching the show, right? You can tell humans have such great radar nowadays for like
Yes.
what's true and authentic and what is not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can really see like how there are true relationships being developed here. There is true support between contestants and the judges and the contributors. And the other thing that I thought was so cool is you had so much brand support.
Yeah.
You had so many brands that are like considered really major powerhouse brands in their own industries and in their own right that signed on to support this process, who I never would have thought that this would be a project that mattered to them.
That's so
However, it was like you found the heart.
yes.
And the heart of it was like, this is actually really important to these companies because these companies are aware that they support business owners, they support these educators, they support creatives, right? And we
Yep.
don't make those connections, but it really was inspiring to be like, wow, we really are all interconnected and we
Totally.
do need each other. And then like seeing different brands, and I'm like, you were like Pilot pens, and I was like, yeah, I like held it up, was like, it's right here.
You're like, you actually use a pilot pen.
I use a Pilot pen and I'm territorial about it too. Like, don't touch my pen. This is my pen. But it was really special because I was like, this is how we get to look deeper.
Yeah.
And it's not like the highest level of what we do brings us together. It's more so like, let's get deeper in the layers of it and get to the mission, because when we connect to our mission, we have so much more in common than we would
Yeah.
ever probably realize on a day-to-day basis.
100%. And I think even as we were looking at the partners that we were bringing into the world of 60-Day Hustle, it really was about that. You know, what's the ethos, the values, the mission of these brands, and does it align with what we're doing? And all of the brands that are part of the show, they cared so deeply about the journey of the entrepreneurs and about really creating an opportunity for the audience to be able to experience something like this too. It was very heart-centered for everyone. And every single brand, there's a real reason why they're a part of it. So you brought up Pilot Pen, for example. You know, they're the G2 specifically, this is the G2. They were on that was the main pen that was featured in the show, but they are the pen of the overachiever. That's literally what they're about. They support overachievers. And then there's all sorts of incredible things around writing that sometimes people might think, oh, like a pen, like why is a pen,
Oh,
does it
it
matter?
matters to me.
Like, but yeah, it matters.
It matters.
It's such a part of the journey of whether if that's your journey of bringing to life your vision, your business idea, for me, I use it even for manifesting, like the journey of bringing to life our company I
Yes.
literally write every single morning my intentions around what we're building and what we're manifesting as if it's already done. And to look back at that and see it, happen, I think is so incredibly powerful. So when we're looking at brands that we're bringing into the universe of the project of the show, it's like really who's supporting and bringing that dream to life,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you know what was really sweet is, at least in my experience and from what I hear from women who are starting businesses or changing their identities, right? The first fear is like, am I going to get support? Am I going to be supported? Right. And am I going to be judged for this? Because people know me as one version of myself. People know me as being a part of one career. And to know that there are places and spaces and companies and businesses and other people that may not be your family, they may not be your best friends in that moment, right? Who are like championing you, but they are out there and they are here and they're bought, like you don't have to buy in, they're already bought into like the possibility of what you're creating and the reality that is you and your journey and your mission and who you're becoming. And it's like that to me, when we can attune ourselves to that and be like, maybe there are, I remember being at the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey and the people that I loved the most were in their own kind of fear around it. And it was like, but I can see it, but I know it, but I feel it, right? And like you said, in my bones, I can feel it. The vision is so clear that it's so potent. Like I couldn't deny it, even if I tried. So that was like something that kind of hurt in the beginning of like, man, like you can't see it. And I want you to see it because I want you to know, I want you to feel safe. I want you to trust it. Like I trust it. And that wasn't always possible. And so to know that there are like not just people and companies that believe in us, but like it's there and it's like people are doing it. And now having the experience of getting to watch it on a show, being like, oh, there's evidence, there's evidence that I'm not crazy, or maybe I am. And either way is fine. But like, that it's being done by other people. I'm not alone.
Yes. And also that is what we wanted to show, because I think a lot of times people show on social media, like the glitz and the glam and the success of it all. And it makes it feel like the process should be a lot faster and a lot easier. I do believe in ease. I do believe in joy in the process and all of that. And I also am aware that sometimes the path doesn't look as straightforward as you'd like. And so we really wanted to show that on 60 Day Hustle. We wanted to show like the reality of what it takes and, some of the sacrifices that you're making as you're building this thing. And it's all for good, right? At the end. So I think it was incredible just to see the ups and the downs and also to see what is possible in such a short period of time. So we saw leaps of growth for these entrepreneurs in a 60-day period. And it made even us think, oh my gosh, can you imagine if we treated ourselves and our company like if we were on a competition show? Like action, the way that you move, like these people, they were defying what they thought was possible. And when they thought they were tired, they went another level, because they realized that they had so much more in them. I saw some other like interviews and podcasts that some of the casts have been on. And it's been so incredible to hear their perception of like, oh, my bar for like, action and productivity, and what's possible has increased now because I now know what I am capable of. And by the way, that's still just the beginning, it's like
for sure.
Whatever it takes to bring that vision to life. Like, again, if it's been planted in your heart, it's for a reason. And now it's just like, oh, just give it that massive action.
Yeah. And the thing that stands out as I listen to you is the importance, and your mom really set the trajectory for this. And I love your mom so much. And she really knew how to like fan your flames. And I think like there are people out there who didn't have a mom like that, who didn't have those people in their lives. And so they kind of didn't learn how to fan flames, or that it was okay, or that it was acceptable, or that it's critical. So to me, like the stance of, it's not like you have endless energy. However, when you have endless belief, it's easier to source endless energy for that thing. And so the stance is, I believe infinitely in my potential, in my capacity, and I remember a mentor early on telling me this, like I said, how do you create so much, right? He's like an older man. He's like approaching his 70s and he's like so active on social media. He's talking to so many people every day and his energy is like through the roof. And I'm like, how are you so energized? And he said, Katie, the more I create, the more I can create. And I thought, oh, you just broke my brain a little bit in the best way. Like, of course.
That's beautiful.
But it really is. And you just said, you dropped it ever so slightly into like every morning I sit with my pen and I write my intentions and it's like you put fresh fuel in your tank. And like that right there, it's huge. Like if you take one thing from this episode, it's like Michelle just taught you how to refuel your tank in a way that is so simple, but powerful.
So simple and so powerful, and I think like for me, it's such a big part of my journey. And it also kind of recenters you every single day because, that you have the ups and the downs, but it's that constant centering into what's the belief and what's the vision and what's, the outcome that you're seeing for yourself. So I love it so much. I do it every single day. And I think it's easy to get caught up in the weeds and the wins and the wins and the non-wins. Like you're not freaking crushing it. And then you become almost emotionally reactive to that. And it's so important to be in this neutral state that is actually rooted in the vision and where you're going. And so for me, it's eye on the prize. It is there. And I will do whatever it takes to learn, to get stronger, to build properly, to get to that thing. But I know that thing is there and it's literally there. It's here. So it's been really cool to see it come to life because I've definitely had, you spoke about energy. I had moments where I felt so depleted of energy because there was a period where I literally wasn't seeing. It was like the flame of the vision was so dim, And so it never fully went out, but it was dim. And it's so beautiful to see how everything actually came together as it does. Sometimes it's that whole thing of if you bird's eye, you can actually see how everything is actually working for your good. And I think, there was a moment that I was I've always believed that, but right now, this is it's just not feeling, I feel like I'm in a hamster wheel,
For sure.
And I feel like
How did you
my identity.
How did you navigate that as you look back on it?
I think a couple things. I went through a journey where after having been on American Idol and after having performed a ton and doing No Girl Left Behind, being on stages, creating so much impact and being out there. And then the pandemic happened and there was no more tours for a while. And then there was this big shift in where my energy was. I think for me, I started feeling a little bit stuck because we basically created this advertising agency naturally because of the work that I was doing, No Girl Left Behind, and then what my husband was up to as a composer and then started media. And I just felt like, oh my God, this thing is growing. This thing is growing, but it doesn't feel connected to purpose. And that was so depleting of my energy. And it just got to a point where I was we can grow this thing and be in a financial place that is fantastic. But if it's not actually fulfilling the reason why I'm on this planet, then none of it really matters. And so it was a very abrupt situation, a very abrupt decision to say, you know what, what's that whole thing of burn the ships? It was no, we're gonna, let's just completely go all in on what the vision is. And so I sat down, had a conversation with my husband about, what it would look like for us to completely pivot and shift directions into everything that we're meant to be here. And the beautiful thing is that it all came together. The reason that we're able to finance projects and build this entertainment studio in the way we do is because of the experience that we had as an agency, as well as, entertainment. It all ended up coming together, but it was that choice to follow my gut of okay, it's time. We're going to either keep going in this direction that doesn't feel right. And I think it was it's about taking the leap, even when your knees are freaking hitting each other, because it's I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I'm willing to go all in to make the vision come to life because I'm so clear on that piece. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure we get there versus just staying stuck in this hamster wheel. And so, it was a big leap of faith. And my husband and I just held hands and jumped, and it's been the most incredible ride. I'm so grateful.
Yeah. Ooh, I feel every frame of that journey you just described, the moment of knowing, that intuitive knowing of this is fruitful and not totally in alignment. And that piece, when that kind of feedback happens, I feel like the founders kind of go, are we doing something wrong? Is something not working right? Is something going, and there's this there's an opening for two things. First is fear. The second one is innovation. And I think sometimes the founders run off with fear rather than staying with it long enough to go, how do we innovate? Yeah. Because to me, that it's the universe is asking for a recalibration.
Yeah.
And there's a courage that's involved of going, how do I think beyond this? how do I get creative? How do I break this box so that what's really meant to come through can come through? And do I trust it?
100%. The thing that was so interesting is in the time that we were at, we had just bought a home in Miami. Again, the business was like starting to really, really flourish, and we were like growing that whole thing, and you're seeing the fruits of that. But I remember we got the keys to the place, and Chris was super excited and everything. And he knows me, so my husband, Chris, he knows me so well. I was just like, I was like smiling, but inside I was like, this doesn't feel right yet. Not the Miami place. I love all of that. And I believe in infinite abundance and prosperity and wealth so you can do more good. You know, when you have more, you can give more. I believe in that. But I was like, well, something just feels like we're going to continue growing in that sense, but not on the other. And so, you know, it's so odd, but like I had like a few tears like come down a little bit. And Chris woke up the next morning and was like, let's do a whiteboard session. Let's actually write out all the things together that you want to do in life and that you feel are connected to purpose and all of that. And so that was such a beautiful moment, you know, in partnership to really look at like what doesn't feel right, what would feel right. And then it's really just tuning into that vision, you know, and again, just like whatever that thing is that you have felt in your heart, just like moving forward on that. And I was so clear on it. I mean, like a couple years prior on a Thanksgiving day, I remember I was getting ready and I very clearly saw like this like whole like studio thing and all this impact happen as a result and like how it was going to create such social impact and change lives and be so powerful and be a force for good. And I saw it so clearly. And then time just kept going and it almost was just like in the back. And so in that moment, the decision was made. It was like, oh, this is it. We know what it is. Now it's just like, let's just take all the action that we bring it to life.
And I giggle as you explain that because I have had those moments. I like run down the hallway like, babe, I saw it. I saw it. I feel it. We're so close. I can touch it. I can feel it in my cells, you know? And I feel like he's like, okay, you know, it's like, all right. And I love the attunement that Chris modeled, you know, in that moment of like, I know her. I can feel her. Right. And what's so important too is I would love to be that. Oh my gosh, I would love to be able to be in integrity as that woman that's like, it's all going to be sunshine and rainbows and roses and blah, 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 blah. And I will not lie to anybody in that way because it's so important for us to take the risk and then figure out what it's not.
Yeah.
Like we have to know what it's not just as clearly as knowing what it is.
Yep.
And so there's this real like dance because the time period that you're talking about, it was kind of like the golden handcuffs, right? Like you would have been good if you were only thinking about your lifestyle, if you were only thinking about you and, you know, Chris and whatever you two are creating for yourselves. But because the vision was bigger, it was like, oh, this is close. There's aspects of it. And that journey probably contributed to you developing some greater discernment, some refined ways of how you see the vision, how you're moving within it, some attunement in your body to be even more clear of like, yes and no going forward as we sort of deconstruct this whole thing we've built and reconstruct it in a way that has greater alignment.
Yes. And then beautiful things started to happen because we made a decision. And so I get on a plane and then I meet this entertainment executive that, you know, is just a wonderful person that opens, you know, doors and thoughts and all of the things. And like all of those little magical moments start to happen because we made the decision. Chris and I are very aligned in like purpose and mission and just coming together to do something big. And then we have, you know, one of our best friends, Adam, he's a partner in the company. He's the head of production here at the company. And the three of us really like, we went into like one of our, like our boardroom in our office and we just like locked it and we had whiteboards everywhere and we just went all in on how we were going to build this thing together. So it's a great thing to follow that vision. And then I'm super grateful and, you know, that I'm in a place that I have such amazing business partners. It's like, it's such a testament to like, these are the people that I'm building with and like, we're all in it together. We're very aligned on the end goal and the outcome and our paths our paths have been different, but they all have like led to the reason why this company is,
Mm-hmm.
growing in the way that it is, the reason why it is special in the industry, So it's just been so beautiful to just follow that journey, go with it. And I think the other thing is like, I love the unknown. Now, don't get me wrong. I really do love like serendipity, and I do love like knowing where we're going to, but
Sure.
but the unknown, it's like an arena that I just like get lit up around. I'm like, okay, like let's play. Like, what are we building here? And I think that Chris and I have a very high risk tolerance. And so that has also been the thing that has allowed us to like take leaps instead of like small like steps forward,
Mm-hmm.
because we go all in. Like Chris and I have literally gone all in. The shift from the agency company to shifting into the entertainment studio, we went all in. And there were moments that were like, woo, like, okay, what does the next step look like? Because I don't see it right now, but we knew what the end goal was and we put everything in on that. And oh my goodness, everything starts to come together. I mean, it's one of those things where when you have the vision, you're able to get fueled and energized by that. And then just the ability and the willingness to take that leap. Like to me, I'm very spiritual. I'm always like, if you put it in my heart, God, I know you're with me. Like, I know you're with me. Got this and we'll figure it out. But man, what a fun journey life is when you go all in like that. And sometimes it's like you feel some of that pain, but then those are incredible lessons. That's resilience. That's, grit that you're like gaining. And it's so, it's amazing. It's been incredible. It's been an incredible journey to just give it everything and then now see the fruits of it all come to life.
Yeah. Oh, you dropped some golden nugget treasures in there. There's three that stand out to me. And I want people to take notes, right? Because or make a mental note or open up your phone and, type it in your notes app. Because the first thing is when you made the decision.
Yeah.
And I think decisions are so underrated. Like when you make that decision and your energy is, I am convicted in this decision, I feel like God is just like waiting there, like
totally.
Like, let me play. I'm just waiting on your free will. I'm just waiting on your free will to open up this possibility for me because we do have free will, right? And it's like that decision point is paramount to everything. So the decision is the first thing that stands out to me. The second thing is your belief system around uncertainty. She said, I love not knowing. I love the void. I love uncertainty. I don't even know if you use the word uncertainty, but that's what stands out for me because this is the thing that I think trips up many people is like, oh, but I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. And it's like, ooh, girl, just free fall in there. You know what I mean? Like, let it.
That's literally where everything is possible. That's where like you go all in on the biggest version of the vision. Like, what is that? And like how amazing, like where it looks like a blank canvas, like that's where you build the masterpiece. So for me, I'm like, yes, like let's go all in the unknown and it's scary and it's exciting and it's riveting and it's life, it's all of it.
For sure. It's a great story.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too is like, there will always be that. It's just the next level of that. So now foundation around that version of it, when we were building what this entertainment studio looks like and going all in on that, now we have solid foundation on that. And now it's like taking that to the next level and playing in the unknown with that, and it's always a continuation of building and expanding and growing. And I think it's because it's almost like it's the walk to the vision, but you're only seeing the first few steps.
Yes.
Flashlight goes so far. And so I'm excited to develop, what I'm seeing within the flashlight, but I'm excited to jump in on the next one, and it's a beautiful, I just think it's such a beautiful way to live and explore and create.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. And the third thing that I heard is that identity piece, right? I heard you say one of the things that is so amazing is I'm surrounded by people that are a part of this vision. They're so enrolled. They're such perfect fits. And I'm such a visual person. So I see literal like puzzle pieces. But the thing about puzzles is that every piece needs to be its own piece so that it can complement the other pieces and contribute to the picture.
Come on, Katie.
And so that identity work, right? The acceptance of self, the acceptance of the mission, the acceptance of like, I'm going to be this piece of this puzzle so that I can attract all of the other pieces that I require. Because I don't believe in self-made. There's always, right? This is a collaborative experience and journey. And sure, there's moments, right? There might be phases where like, I'm alone, and you're never really alone when you're walking in your mission, because there's always the divinity that exists within you. However, that's what I saw when I heard that. I was like, to me, it's testament to who you are and how solid and fortified you are in your identity that you continue to attract these people that are so complementary, because they can see clearly, I'm a piece that complements that piece.
Yeah.
And that picture needs me. And there's nothing else like that in the world to me.
I completely agree. It's so beautiful when you see it come together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so much wisdom in this share, in this episode, in your journey. There was one other place that I wanted to go. And now I'm like, what do you feel like is, as you said, there's new levels, right? It's very video game-ish, where you head into one level and then you lay the foundation and you kind of master that level. And then there's another one that comes knocking, right? Do you have an idea of what that might be for you?
I do. And it's still forming. It's still forming in my mind. I have seen certain things. I think the next piece is hands down around the tangible social impact that we're going to create as a company and what that looks like for the business, but in a mass scale. Like there's a whole initiative that and we've talked about, with my husband and I and, the team, but like really like there's this vision in my heart that I see that I want to bring to life. And it's just so big. It is so big, and it's tied to entertainment, and it's tied to audiences by the millions. And there's so much, and obviously I'm being incredibly vague because we're still in the very early
Of course. Yeah.
And I think there's another piece too, to that, which is, most of my life has been on stage. And so bringing forth and bringing back the performing aspect of things is going to be a really interesting piece. And I think that, you talked about identity. There was a moment that was like, I think, first of all, that's a bigger leap for me right now, just because I have gotten so focused on the business leader, Michelle, and so haven't been the performer, Michelle, in a while. And so I just know that voice that God gave me is for a reason as well. And it'll all tie together. So I think there's a lot there, which I'm, again, being very vague about. But I think the next piece has to do with taking, when I was doing No Girl Left Behind, I was always about how do we create the biggest amount of impact with entertainment in the center. I was performing and we'd see thousands of girls and it was this huge thing. And so I think it's, what does the times 10 version of that look like? The times 100 of that look like? And how can we utilize this machine, this force for good that is this entertainment studio that we're building to really create social impact in such a meaningful way on such a large scale? And that's really where literally my mind is at every day as we're building this thing and growing this thing. So yeah. And with that, I will be jumping into the unknown, and I'm very excited about it.
Yes. That blank canvas.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. It has been such a pleasure. I hope everybody listens to this episode again and takes notes for a second time, because there's so much wisdom and so much beauty in this episode. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh, I appreciate you so much. And you have you have this incredible gift of creating calm and peace in people. And I just really appreciate you for your time and for your energy and for your love and just for who you are in this world. I absolutely adore you.
Thank you. As we complete this episode, I would love to know your insights, takeaways, and feedback. You can message me on Instagram at Katie Lynn Rojano, or send them via email to katie@katielynnrojano.com. Any products or digital downloads I mentioned can be found via the link in my Instagram bio. If you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to share it with at least one friend and leave a 5-star review so we can get these impactful dialogues into the lives of even more people. I would also like to thank my guest for their vulnerability and generosity in allowing us to learn from them and grow alongside them. Until next time, friends, let's go beyond.